Batman Bugha and Rapid have been on an absolute tear this season, winning back-to-back Cash Cups, placing 3rd and 5th in the FNCS qualifiers, and coming 2nd in another Cash Cup. I wanted to know what they were doing to be so successful, so I watched all 6 of their games from the most recent Cash Cup and FNCS qualifier because these were the 2 tournaments played on the current meta, and in this video I'm going to share their general strategies, a mistake they made that made me rethink my endgame philosophy, and answer the question, why do they make this weird base, as well as much more. So let's get right into their games. Batman Bugha and Rapid land at Grim Gate, and in the Cash Cup they were uncontested, but in the FNCS week they were contested by Bucky and Ocus. When contested at Grim, both teams would either instantly 50-50 the drop or disengage and split the POI. This means there wasn't that much depth to these fights outside of who had the best drop. Clearly Batman Bugha and Rapid had better drops as they only died off spawn once and outplaced Bucky and Ocus by 45 places. Once they had cleared their drop, they looked to trade Storm Surge with the many teams that landed around them on the many split drops in the northwest corner of the map. This is where this weird base comes in. Rapid and Batman Bugha would often straight ramp up and use this to create great angles for themselves to find tags. They didn't care if they got shot out, as they could simply use one of their dashes from all of the green water to negate the fall damage, meaning they got a ton of great angles for practically no risk. Once they traded this Storm Surge, they could go back into Grim Gate and use the many barrels, extra heals, and nom boxes to get back up to max HP without using any heals in their inventory. Moving on to their mid games, they would often rotate into the desert where they could then base up on slurp plants and continue to trade Surge, as when they got hit they could simply drop down from their base and break the plant for 30 shield, further saving their heals. They would then rinse and repeat the strategy until the partial zones, where they would try to position themselves near map mobility, whether it's island rifts or flaming hoops, to make the rotations much easier. Once they make it to the end games, Batman Bugha and Rapid really start to shine. The first thing that becomes incredibly apparent when watching this team in the end game is how coordinated they are. They are constantly right next to each other in the end game, and they are always making the exact same play as each other. This means that they can get away with making plays that would normally be game enders. One area where this was apparent was how often they ran through the center of the moving zones. This is a generally bad strategy because when running through the center of the zone, you have players on all your angles, massively increasing the odds that you get shot from somewhere. Batman Bugha and Rapid get away with this despite its high risk almost entirely because they fully commit to it together as a duo. This serves as an important reminder that making the wrong play together is better than one player making the right play and one player making the wrong play. They didn't always run through the center of the zone though, as especially in the most recent duo Cash Cups, they started to really use the dead sides of the moving zones. Rapid would often wait to see where the next moving zone would pull and then instantly use a Nitro Splash to allow them to run to this dead side and quickly establish themselves in one of the safest spots in the lobby. This strategy would work well for them, getting them to the final moving zone, but once they get there, their strategy switches from tactical teamwork to both players playing what is basically 2 separate games. Once they run out of materials every game, Batman Bugha will stay in zone with ideally 3 medkits, while Rapid goes into the zone and tries to get as many kills as possible. This strategy means they will very rarely win games, but they will often clutch many games that should have been top 5s into top 2s or 3s, earning them an extra 8 to 16 points a game. This is incredibly beneficial and in my opinion outweighs the occasional extra 9 points you get from taking a risky play to get a win. This is their overall game plan, but there are still some things that this duo does that are really important to talk about. The first is in game 5 of the Cash Cup, where they are in the end of the 11th zone on the low ground. From this position, if they pull the final moving zone, they are basically guaranteed to come top 3 in this game. Unfortunately for them, they get probably the worst final moving zone pull they could get, but they still get the low ground by quickly getting to the front side, and then when the zone plays down a hill, new layers open up, allowing them to take the low ground for free and clutch up a 2nd place. But this low ground should have never been claimable in the first place because Ritual and Reet had great mats on the low ground and pulled the 12th zone, meaning it should have been an easy take for them. They messed this up though by prioritizing a dumb refresh that got them hit hard, meaning they had to pause and heal instead of actually trying to claim low ground. This should serve as an important lesson that it is never worth fighting for refreshes when the next zone is about to reveal itself unless it is absolutely necessary, because positioning in the next zone is almost always more important. The next strategy I learned from Batman Bugha and Rapid completely changed the way I think about endgames. In game 4 of the 2nd FNCS qualifier, Batman Bugha and Rapid get cut off trying to get to the front side low ground and end up getting lobby focused by Ritual and Reet. The mistake that they made here was actually going along the edge of the zone. In general, it is better to go along the edge of the zone instead of the center, but this wasn't the case in this scenario because of 2 reasons. The first was that claiming the front side low ground was the most important thing for them to do in the next 10 seconds of the endgame, as if they didn't, there was no space left for them to go. The second reason why it was better to go down the center instead of the edge was that taking the path down the edge of the zone required them to take a scuffed route where they had to ramp tarp as there was a team right above them, meaning this was significantly slower than going down the middle of the zone. The conclusion I have come to is that speed is better than safety when claiming space in the end game, and specifically frontside is absolutely required to survive. I'm still not 100% sure what is right here, so if you disagree with me and think that taking the safer route is better, let me know in the comments and explain why, as I think it is really important to think about this question as an IGL. These were the strategies that Batman Bugha and Rapid have been using to be one of NA's most consistent teams, but do I think they're going to win FNCS? No. I think they will come second though, as I think Clix and Vino are playing too well right now. But I am so excited to see this duo perform over the coming weeks and hopefully live up to the potential that they definitely have. If you enjoyed this video, then you will also definitely love this video on screen as well. Peace.